Going live. You're live. All right. That is exactly what I was hoping for. All right. Good morning. We are going to start in about 1 minute. Just going to wait for a couple of people to come and join us. Sit tight. Gerard, Stephen McDuff. Hello. Thanks for joining today from Brazil. Excellent. Excellent. Yep, we're going to start in a minute, about another 30 seconds, and then we'll get going. If you have a question, feel free to type that. Naoko, hi. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining. If you have a question, let me know your question. I have something to talk about today, but I'm happy to answer your questions too. All right, we have another 10 seconds, and then we are going to get started. And 5, 4, 3, 2. Hey, and good morning. Welcome to this live English lesson right here at Happy English in New York City. This is my office here. This is where I meet my students. This is where all of the excitement happens. And I'm so glad that you could join me today. Today is October 30th. Tomorrow is Halloween. As you can see, I've already got my scary costume mask. Don't be frightened, kids. Yeah, and it's raining today. We have a very warm, rainy day in New York. How's the weather by you guys? All right, so check in. Let me know who's here. I see Gerard is here from Brazil. Naoko is here from Japan. Who else is here? Leave a comment, leave a message, leave a thumbs up, something like that. And if you have a question, I'm happy to take your question. But for now, I want to talk about something that a lot of students ask me. And what a lot of people ask me is, Michael, how can I remember what I learn? So maybe you learn vocabulary in your class or you're studying at home, and it's hard. It's easy to learn. I think it's easy to learn vocabulary or easy to learn grammar, but it's really hard to remember. And so I have a system, and this is the system I share with my students. And I'm going to share this with you today. Hello, David from Switzerland. I think we've got the whole world there. We've got every corner there: Japan, Brazil, and Switzerland. All right. So this morning, I'm drinking a cup of Joe. A cup of Joe. A cup of Joe is an idiom or a slang expression that means coffee. And so let's say, for example, that this is the first time you've learned a cup of Joe. All right. So how can you remember that a cup of Joe means coffee? And then if you think about how to translate it into your own language, how do I remember that in English? Okay. What you have to do is this. Hi, Yoko, and hi, Mr. One. Thanks for joining me today. The phrase is a cup of Joe, and you want to remember that, a cup of Joe. So what you need to do is you need to write that phrase or that word in a sentence that is true for you. And I will give you an example. I have a cup of Joe every morning. I have a cup of Joe every morning. That's true for me. And so if you want to remember that phrase, then you need to write it in a sentence that's true for you. Maybe you love coffee. Maybe you drink 2 or 3 cups of Joe every day. So you write that sentence: I drink 2 or 3 cups of Joe every day. And then in your vocabulary notebook, what you have is you have the word, and then you have the sentence that's true for you. Maybe you don't like coffee. And then you can write that. I never drink a cup of Joe because I hate coffee. And that's okay too, because it's true for you. So if there's some vocabulary that you want to remember, that's what you have to do. You need to write it in a sentence that's true for you and practice your sentences. That's the secret. So, how about grammar? All right. Let's say, for example, that you learn the conditional sentence. I'll give you an example. If it rains tomorrow, I'm going to stay home. So maybe you've studied this. It's if plus a present verb followed by the future. If it rains tomorrow, I am going to stay home. If it rains tomorrow, I am going to stay home. If you want to remember that grammar, just make your own sentence. If it rains tomorrow, I am going to take the bus. If it rains tomorrow, I am not going to go to the park. All right. So, whatever the thing is that you want to remember, you need to write it in your own sentence and then memorize your sentences. And that's my best advice, and basically my only advice for helping you to remember new things that you learn. So many people have a notebook, and on one side is a list of words, and the other side is the translation into their language and then the meaning. But that doesn't help you because there's no context. Context is king. Context means the situation that the language is used in. And so you have to put that language, put that vocabulary, put that grammar in a context, in a situation that's true for you. So if the word is a cup of Joe and you don't drink coffee, you can say, I never drink a cup of Joe. Or I don't understand why people like to drink a cup of Joe. I think coffee tastes nasty. Okay? It doesn't matter what the sentence is, except the sentence has to be true for you. And that's how you're going to remember. Quick hello. Hey, Yalchin from Turkey. Renato, hello from Brazil. And Mukunda, hi. I'm not sure where you're from. Mr. One, Yoko, Gerard, David, hi. Thank you all. If you guys have an English question, please let me know. I don't get it. A cup of Joe. It's Joe, Joe, a cup of Joe. Like, hello, Joe. It's a guy's name. I don't know why we use that phrase, a cup of Joe. I'll put it in the chat there, Joe. Cup of Joe. I heard one time that Renato and Naoko, thank you. Yes, Joe. I heard one time that the famous baseball player Joe DiMaggio was a big coffee drinker, and so somehow the phrase "a cup of Joe" got started because he was a coffee fan. So let's have some coffee with Joe. Let's have some Joe. I don't know if that's true. And I've read a lot of stories about that idiom. I don't know if that's true, but that's just what we say. A cup of Joe. So anyway, so that's the tip or the trick for remembering vocabulary. So everybody who's here watching, I'd like you to type something in the chat box. How many vocabulary words, how many new words do you think that a person can learn in one day? Okay. So, all right, David, good luck in your job. Take care. Thanks for coming today. How many vocabulary words do you think that a person can learn every day? Why don't you type the number and let me know? What do you think? 2 words, 10 words, 5 words? How many new vocabulary words do you think someone can learn every day? What do you think? Any guesses? Nobody's typing. Tanya says 10. Hi, Tanya. 10. Anybody else? Naoko 5. Anybody else? How many? Yoko 5. Okay. Any else? How many vocabulary words can you learn? Okay, I think it's 2. And I say 2 because to learn a new word, you need to make sure that you remember it forever. So do me a favor, type right now, type a word or an idiom that you've learned recently. Think about what you studied this week in English, maybe at home on your own or in your English class, and type a word that you've learned. Okay, act up. Act up. Act up is a phrasal verb. And if you have kids, this is a very useful phrasal verb because act up means to behave badly. Here's an example sentence. The children in the classroom were acting up. The children were acting up. The children were behaving badly in the class. And so act up. When I was a kid, I was always acting up. Okay, that's my example sentence. Or the kids that live next door are really good kids and they hardly ever act up. So what I'm doing is I'm taking that vocabulary and I'm putting it in some sentences that are true for me. How about you? So Yoko, do you have a sentence, an original sentence with that word? Like when you were a child, did you act up? Or do your kids act up? Can I use act up like the elevator is acting up? Please use the upstairs. So I think you can use it in that case. In American English, the elevator is acting up today. Oh, my phone is out. I guess we can use that for machines too. If you use it for a machine, act up means there's something wrong. It's not working as well or as smooth as you'd like. For example, recently, whenever it rains, my car is acting up. It means that for some reason, when it's raining out, my car engine doesn't run well. So the car is acting up a little bit. So you can use it in that case too. And again, you want to write that in an original sentence. And so Naoko's word that she learned is crack down on. Crack down on. And crack down on means that when somebody cracks down on something, it means that they're enforcing the rules or being strict about something. For example, my boss always cracks down on lateness. So if you come to this office late, you're going to be in trouble. Crack down on. Recently, in my neighborhood, the police are cracking down on texting while driving. Have you ever seen this? People drive like this. They go, and they're driving, and they almost crash into you. So the police often crack down on drunk driving. They enforce that rule or they get strict about that situation. How about you? In your area, what do the police crack down on these days? Or in your office, does your boss crack down on anything? Or what? At home, do you crack down on anything if you have kids or a family? Okay, that's another idiom. That's how you can use that. Kosei nori. I love your videos. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Yalchin says, it's not my cup of tea. Yalchin thinks you can learn 25 vocabulary words in one day. Oh my God. That's a challenge. It's not my cup of tea. That's a great idiom. The police crack down on phoning while driving. That's a great example. So that's a true example. And if you have a vocabulary notebook and you write crack down on, and then you write the police crack down on phoning while driving, and then you study that. So now you're building your vocabulary. Number one, a cup of Joe. I drink a cup of Joe every morning, or I never drink a cup of Joe. Number two, if it rains tomorrow, I am going to stay home. Number three, crack down. The police crack down on phoning while driving. There's 3 new words that we've got today, 3 original sentences. Of course, you want to write your own original sentence. And then the third or the fourth idiom that Yalchin mentioned is, it's not my cup of tea. It's not my cup of tea. No, not this one. When you say something is not my cup of tea, it means I really don't like that. And this is a very interesting English language culture point. Americans, that's me, have a reputation of being very direct. Okay. So, Americans speak very directly. And that's true. But in cases where we have to say something negative, or in cases where we have to disagree with someone, we tend to speak indirectly. And so one example is the idiom that Yalchin here suggested, which is, it's not my cup of tea. So if you're having a chat with your friends and one of your friends says, oh, do you like spicy food? You could say, oh, I don't like it. Or, ooh, spicy food? Ooh, I hate that. Or, ooh, spicy food? Ooh, I can't eat that. But it's more polite and more natural in English to use a phrase and to use an indirect phrase to respond. So if your friend says, oh, do you like spicy food? You could say, ooh, spicy food. That's not my cup of tea. That's not my cup of tea. Spicy food is not my cup of tea. It means I don't like it, but it's an indirect and more polite way to say that you don't like something. And so an interesting point about that's not my cup of tea is we use that idiom only in a negative sense. So if you like something, for example, oh, spicy food, that is my cup of tea. We don't speak that way. We only use it's not my cup of tea to show that we don't like something. And that's a key point. Okay, so that's that. Who else? What else? Tanya says, for the birds. For the birds. Erkan, hi. Thank you for joining today. Same meaning as it's not my cup of tea. Right. Here's an example. I hate helping with household chores. It's not my cup of tea. That's right. It is not my cup of tea. Household chores is not my cup of tea either. All right, we have a couple of minutes left. And yes, that's polite English. That's right, Jared. Where'd I go? For the birds. For the birds. I read a book the other day. That book was for the birds. Something that is for the birds is ridiculous or not so important. When you're sitting in the park and the birds come and they're, especially the pigeons, and they're looking for food, you throw them some crumbs of bread. It's not such an important part of the bread. And so it's for the birds. Something that's for the birds is not so important or not so significant. So I read a book last week, and that book was for the birds. Or, that news report was for the birds. It didn't make any sense. So let's wrap up. Let's sum up. Whenever you want to learn new vocabulary or new grammar and remember it, not just learn it, but remember it, you need to write it in a sentence, and the sentence should be true for you, not like the sentences in textbooks where they say something like, Frank drinks a cup of Joe on his ranch every morning. Like, who's Frank? What ranch? We don't care. So it has to be a true sentence for you. And that's the secret or the key to remembering vocabulary and remembering language. And that's my point for today's English lesson. Okay. Arav says, how can I practice my speaking skills? That's a great question. And in fact, I think next week I will do another. I'm going to do another live English lesson next week, and I'll talk about that, how to practice speaking skills. That's a great suggestion. Thank you. Thank you for that. Your live is not for the birds. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. All right. So that is about all of the time that we have for today's live English lesson. I will push the button, and this will become a video that you can watch again later on today, as soon as YouTube processes it. Anyway, thank you very much. And thanks to everybody who has subscribed to my YouTube channel. Now 16,000 subscribers. That's really awesome. Shooting for 20,000 subscribers this year. 20,000. I think we can do it. Tell your friends if you like this channel. And if you don't like my English lessons here, tell people that you don't like and torture them. All right. Anyway, thank you everyone for joining me today for this live chat. Kusei, Naoko, Roberto, Erkan, Yalchin, who else here? Gerard, Erkan, Yoko, Tanya, Naoko. Okay, I think I got everybody. All right, so thank you everyone for joining me today. Next week, probably same day, same time, same channel for another live. The topic will be thanks to who said that? How can I practice my Arav asked, how can I practice my speaking skills? That is going to be the topic of the next live. I will show you and share my thoughts with that. Thank you very much. Check out my Instagram page, Facebook, Twitter, all of that. All the links are here. myhappyenglish.com has more than 2,000 free English lessons for you. myhappyenglish.com. Thank you so much for studying today. You guys have a great day and happy Halloween.